Knowledge. It is a gift, but also sometimes a blighted curse. Knowledge grants wisdom. Wisdom pushes to experience. And experience gives arguable hail of power. These are all used in interesting ways, but whoever is a veteran of all these things, whoever holds the greatest acclaim of understanding, does not entirely be the most greatest. As is because of having these ideas of, what is best for another or experience of another, does not entirely slate you with the most smart. But there's a lot of showcases in fiction or in real life where the most profound held people of knowledge put forth the greatest case of minds that ever be saw. And what is being said, two of these people have that in their own interesting ways. With Avatar Roku, famed avatar of Avatar The Last Airbender in the entire series, respected by Avatar Aang, a master of all the four elements in a unique way, using them all in concession with water, earth, fire, air, and being a symbol of what it means to be hope and peace. First is Conquest, a sadistic, ruthless, zealous Viltrumite warrior, the oldest of them, one of the most strong and beastful case of demons in the entire verse, having Blacker Force energy relishing through his veins. But besides that, I don't think I need to really explain why both of these characters have mixed comparisons and obviously big disparities. It isn't obvious by the title. These characters are way different from each other, and one is vastly out of the league of the other, with the other person scaling the things that the other person could never actually scale to, and a dude beforehand not scaling to that at all. But what if we do a unique thing where I say, let's take away the argument for them being vastly different and talking about the actual validity for why someone in comparison would be defeated by the other, and more say, how would the fight go if it was equal? AKA my first equal stats video by default. I've talked about equal stats and different opinions about how things would go if characters were set in stone equal, but I wanted to see how it would go if I took Avatar Roku and Conquest of Viltrum and see how a fight between them would go if they were equal stats. I'm going to be taking in, obviously, everything we had about Avatar Roku, taking everything to be had about Conquest from the comics, mix, showcases and shit from the show just for show. And, speaking about how it would be if it was equal. But some people don't actually know what equal stats is, so I'm going to be having this intro be a little bit longer to explain that a little bit. When it comes down to equal stats, it is a mixed up toss-up thing of equalism on some different forms of power scaling. When it comes down to this, we're going to be equalizing everything. AP, durability, speed, all that stuff, so that we can have an interesting, equal, unique, cool case of fight that is going to dumb down to skill, prowess, hacks, capabilities, and things along those lines. With that being said, and looking at what characters have faced in their own individual verse, and look at their accolades, and just have an interesting discussion to see who truly would best the other, and going over basically feats and accolades of the type of prowess that they have and other things along those lines. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, I hope you guys will enjoy. If you're new here, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, share, subscribe, whatever the case may be. And yeah, again, I hope you will enjoy. Hope that you have a great day. Let's go and get it done. For Roku, I want to be talking about obviously his AP and his speed and what really constructs him to be this. But for bare minimum, he should be scaling to Avatar Kyoshi and what she can do, what she's able to go ahead and split peninsula, which has been demonstrated to be able to destroy a small country. When it comes down to his actual accolades in comparison to that, there's a lot of these to be taken in measure, depending how you perceive it. With the Avatar and the core creators talking about how each Avatar that comes after the next is supposed to be stronger and going full force, on the means of, the fact that every Avatar that comes after is supposed to be stronger, and that you would gain automatically mixed bag the capabilities of the avatars that came before you on top of your own by pretty much transition and reincarnation of them. In the original source material, right, that was not the case, and also the fact that that's arguably contradicted before it's actually shown, as you do need to actually learn and manifest the skills and capabilities of the avatars before, and you don't automatically by default get that stuff. So it makes definitely the author and or consistency that actually needs to be taken in consideration. Avatar Roku would easily and needlessly be able to be stronger than Aang, even at the end of the series in greater form by baseline, and even though not being on the same level as Avatar Kyoshi or even Yang Shin, he decently scales to reasonable initiation of those same scales, with him being able to upform lava, be able to push back lava using earth bending, great usage of all four elements at the same time, having great regard, seen in great standing by Sozin, grandfather to Zuko, and being of great regard, even though in the context for, our boy, one time, showcasing for a person dying besides mixed betrayal, like to a mixed regard, even though he didn't actually die by that, by the fall, correct me if I'm wrong, within the means for, how he died in court, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know if it's old age or not, but still, the full, push on what I was going to say, was the fact that our man, Iroh, in comparison, right, because of mixed old age, tied with the fact of, not being shown of what he could full do all at once, even though he is of a very crazed, regard, veterinar of what he does. Roku, in comparison, right, died because of a mix of being poisoned by basically the toxic gas and steamed and being able, to not see. So this man, from not just being old, out of shape, rusty, not needing to do so for a very long time, combined with that, could not push back the greater volcano eruption. But even before that, he was showcasing great talents with the Avatar state and maneuvering with the lava and other shit, even with, being kind of very outdone and outmaneuvered by the hectic eruption of the volcano, showcasing not just very adaptive skill, showcasing great smarts, showcasing great wit, showcasing that he's a very interesting and very, intricate maneuvering person that uses a great deal of crowd control, great force, power, and even though we haven't seen him in a full throttle fight, we do know that he's a ridiculous powerhouse, maneuvering water so much in the water tribe that this man was able to tsunami a great deal of the Imperial Water Palace, right? Corresponding with, again, using lava and uplifting it to the most highest regard, and is a force to be reckoned with like no other. I mean, Iroh, in comparison as a person, right, not just to keep, a mixed comparison, is one of the most famed held firebenders, second to Lord Ozai, arguably, right? But this man doesn't showcase the same level of, very optical built different size and magnitude like this man, Roku, in comparison. So, that right there, enough, should really seal in the deal that he's a built different regard. Conquest, a whole different animal, a beast in the most wicked regard of proportions. Conquest is one of the most ruthless, hailed Viltrumites for a reason. Sadistic, depraved beast. But not just that, he's one of the most interesting Viltrumites when it comes down to his personality and being. He's one of the most oldest, if we count, the matter of Lord Argol and Mix. He possibly is not the oldest, but has been counted to possibly be the oldest, as Lord Argol is the father of Omni-Man and multiple different forms of Viltrumites, and is the grandfather of Mark and Oliver. Mark later on being the strongest Viltrumite possibly, and Oliver being an undisputed GOAT. Badass beatdown coming down. He got slapped against the pavement like a basketball. But besides that, he is also accounted to be the second strongest Viltrumite next to Grand Regent Thrag, who was the usurper to the legacy of Grand Argol, being his second in command, trusted warrior, a warrior bred for the ultimate, staying the crop means of combatant, you know what I'm saying? And for y'all who don't know what a Grand Regent is, or what even, Thrag is basically in a, half position of basically being like emperor, but is more of a person to reset up the means for, fundamental reform for the power of a empire or monarchy, right? Basically reigniting the flame for it to get back on its feet, right? And besides all that, Conquest, even though being claimed to be the second strongest, there are people that outrank him and hold possibly greater measure of this and this over him. Thula and mixed stand of skill when it comes down to, strongest of the strong. Within the case of the Viltrumite Empire, you have the record that Conquest, even though being very ridiculously strong and being definitely one of the most craziest, powerhouses within the Empire in the verse, being a, ridiculously strong dude that wastes multiple civilizations before him, a pillager like no other of planets. People like Craig outdo him by his smarts, tactical mind, and combatant, capabilities. Anissa, is a feisty two-time record of woman that, scales to Mark to over Mark, and I don't want to be talking about the situation between her and him. But simply put, you know, even if you think that these people have mixed, you know, motto and merit to be over him in some regards, even by their own words of Thrag, there are arguments that these people do outscale him, depending on you perceive the rank and other cases, you know, argumentation of that. When we talk about the fact that Thrag, as a ruler, was running the whole means of culling of the herd to the most highest regard, strongest of the strong, who means more, and even though Conquest was big utilized in running, you know, a great muck of bloodshed for the Empire, as that's the thing that he's the most renowned and crowned for, as being a ridiculously built different enforcer. He, at the end of the day, still has a lot of arguments to put him down in comparison to them by mixed rank, the motto of Thrag, and their own capabilities, but he easily is definitely reasonable to be one of, not the strongest Viltrumite physically in different mixed boasts. You know what I'm saying? It's a different matter, as this man Thrag is definitely top dog powerhouse, but Conquest has showcased capabilities to out-muscle and body a lot of them people, showcasing ways of killing and evisceration like no other. Conquest has been able to scale to Mark even when in his greater bloodlusted forms, out-muscle him, speed blitz him, bury this man, bully him like no other. Conquest is a top dog killer and zealously crazed demon of a motherfucker, where Conquest is so absurd and wild with his killing and his brutatiousness that when it comes down to actually taking blows and dishing them out, he dishes one of the most hardcore ones. From this man being a Viltrumite, he has Super Atoms, aka one of the most high, crazy, you know, versatile and adverseful, you know, forms of healing factor and biology, allowing him to take blows to the most ridiculous regard, basically allowing his skin to be akin not just in mixed durability account like a mammoth, but also have mixed matter of being basically sense of like, you know, leopard, with how much of, you know, great deal of harm he can take and still keep being willing to fight and all that. So yeah, that's the big thing about Conquest, especially because how he even lost to Mark in his first fight was a mix of a bunch of context, you know, being interrupted by Oliver trying to be a good little brother. You have obviously his cockiness tied with Eve coming with her daughter Manhattan capabilities and basically almost incinerating him, which he took dead to the body and was willing to keep fighting, right? And also his own cockiness, as he is a man that thoroughly enjoys putting hurt on people, and basically he's a goon for violence, right? He's his own audience in his own fight. He has too much of a cocky egomaniac like sense of attitude that can put him down to fight. But just going off what he's shown, he is able to bully Mark, put the fear of God into Omni-Man, who a lot of people discuss could possibly fight him and, you know, reasonably best him, you know what I'm saying? And I think that Omni-Man would give Conquest instant credit to fight, but just at face value merit and dealing, you know, actual greater showcasing and feats and scaling, Conquest would best Omni-Man, even with obviously the matter for, you know, him being a very creative, you know, very smart and efficient fighter in his own right, you know what I'm saying? You know, man, knowing his Black Force energy on a zealous regard. But I definitely think older Omni-Man, aka Emperor Omni-Man, aka Nolan, has a lot of mixed merit and notion to strongly, you know, be advised to best this man Conquest possibly. But besides that contingent fight, Conquest again is ridiculous when it comes down to different merit and showcasing of what he can do, and only died in the second one from mixed credit, the fact that again being audience in his own fight, and the fact that Mark was literally choking him out. He could barely even gasp for air, what is being said, and no matter the blows that he done to Mark, he could not out-muscle Mark, which is kind of mixed bag, you know, contradicted by what was shown before. Even if you want to argue, you know, Mark training and putting all this work to beat him, you know what I'm saying, by all different regard of, you know, muscle training and all this stuff, it is kind of wild that he was able to last onto his neck and choke him out, as you see, right? So you could mix Stretch as being like a outlier mixed plot armor perspective, but regardless, the fact is that he scales very much to Mark to over, right, which will put him in a great regard for, you know, power scale and stand. But these are people that do a great run of different shit, and you know, you have all the display of what they can do and the people that they fought and, you know, verse of this regards. So there's a lot of arguments to say that he's a ridiculous means, and obviously, you know, he scales to them and they scale to a bunch of different arrangements, different shit. So in conclusion, with everything I said about what makes Conquest such a powerful oath like no other. I do think the fight really comes down to what you think matters more. The fact that Conquest is so undoubtedly way more crazily stronger than Avatar Roku, and is way more of a beast than whatever he could possibly, think of, and the fact that he could just pulverize him and batter in him, destroy the area that they're around, and possibly, even though this would kill him, regardless of the different, greater form scaling to be shown, possibly eradicate half of what's known of the fucking planet of Avatar if we're supposed to be having this battle take place in the case of the war of Avatar, and kill Roku that way. I think if we talk about, obviously, with the matter for Roku having way more versatility, way more hacks at his disposal, utilizing all different mixture of the elements and using them to counteract a lot of what Conquest can do, and or be very mix up things for Conquest to face, as would basically be Conquest versus Adam Eve in the animation side of things, or even mixed credit of people that scale to Adam Eve in comparison, where one person has so much better defense, better artillery, better arsenal to be had, but Conquest is a literal human battering ram with so much strength and so much great chain connect speed that he would basically be able to checkmate a lot of what the stuff is. And if he in truth really is second strongest to Grand Regent Thrag, who again being the famed, Black Force Energy equivalent solidification of hands, galactic Freddie Mercury, right? There is really no way that I would see Roku being able to full outlast again, even if we compare to the case of Invincible's animation, which is obviously not canon to the comic, just by comparison of the fighting display capabilities and the whatever ingenuity and adaptive capabilities of Roku. There's a lot of big mixed bag argument to say that yes, this fight could be very interesting with taking the matter that Conquest never faced somebody with these elemental capabilities. The fact is that all of these different regard of interesting ways of fighting and technique would be very weird for Conquest to face. Conquest would probably be very intriguing one to really see more of the motto of really trying to deal him in, from this stuff. But in the end, I see Conquest getting fed up with all this different, chase of goose, cat and mouse with Roku. Roku always being on the kind of back foot with his defense and really trying to just, weigh down Conquest. And I see Conquest in the end getting the dub by just simply being too much of a powerhouse, really putting in work on Roku in every form of his, defense. And eventually, I do believe, even with equal stats, that Conquest is so undoubtedly way stronger and has taken way more shit than what any avatar in the verse has ever took, that Conquest would in the end body in Roku. And I don't see any way for Roku to actually be able to best Conquest unless Conquest is being so unformally stupid that he's entirely character assassinated, or if you try to basically wank what Roku has by the spiritual restriction of, the whole Avatar verse, which then would cross out of equal stats, because basically you're trying to assert that, Roku could have greater affinity pool of possible attenuation and adaptation for, capability to best someone because of all the spiritual enlightenment and ties to the inspiration that's represented in mixed form of the verse, right? Taking the fact that Avatar has a bunch of ties to multiple forms of Eastern religions, folklore, legend, and mixed bag mythology, right? But again, I don't want to get super into that. In conclusion, I see Conquest beating Roku mid-diff most of the time. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope this was an interesting case of video, with talk, topic, and different cases of things. This is one of my more unique creative, videos. We're trying to make something of unique substance matter and coolness to be talked about. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you'd like to see more equal stats videos like this one, please let me know. This is something I want to go and try, because most people don't, make set in stone, equal stats videos. So I just want to basically have a topic, be a little bit more unique and, nuanced form of talk and, debate with that stuff. Again, let me know who you guys think will win down below, Roku or Conquest. If you disagree with this video, understandable. That's up there. You enjoyed it. I hope it made your day. If you're not having a great day, I wish you the best means for today. I love y'all. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Love y'all.